Australia's second largest city is reeling from one of the country's strongest earthquakes on record. The magnitude 6 quake struck around 200 kilometres north from Melbourne. Now, residents are bracing for more tremors. Live to Brianna Piazza in a moment, but first, a look at what unfolded on the streets.
Damage and disruption. This is the aftermath of one of Australia's biggest earthquakes in 50 years. It struck northeast Victoria, and within an hour, 2 aftershocks were registered. The tremor was felt as far as 900 kilometres away in Adelaide and Sydney. Millions of residents were taken by surprise.
A little bit exciting for the first time, but also a little tiny bit scary.
It was a bit dramatic. I felt the building rattle, so I grabbed my puppy and went underneath the doorway and just, let it unfold.
It was a nervous moment for many, including these skiers at the mountain resort. Cameras captured the rocky ride down the slopes. No serious damage or injuries have been reported, but residents have been told to brace for more danger.
What we have seen since, though, is 6 aftershocks, and those aftershocks have been of size 3.5, 4.1, 2.5, 3.1, 2.4 and 2.9. We can expect to see further aftershocks in the coming days and potentially even coming weeks.
Large earthquakes are rare in Australia as it lies centrally on a tectonic plate.
Brianna Piazza joins us live now for more on this story. Brianna, what's the damage assessment so far?
So emergency crews have been busy responding to about 100 calls for assistance today. More than half of those were in the city of Melbourne. So this is a rare, significant event, even a record-breaking event for the state of Victoria. But we've seen mostly minor damage across the state and in Melbourne. So things like walls that have collapsed on buildings, chimneys that have collapsed, that sort of thing. So the epicentre was in a rural area about 180 kilometres northeast of Melbourne. And so far, thankfully, no injuries or deaths reported. People are being warned to brace for further aftershocks in the weeks ahead.
And Brianna, at the same time, law enforcement in Melbourne has also been kept rather busy with anti-lockdown protests. What can you tell us about that?
That's right. It's been chaos on the streets of Melbourne for the past 3 days as people have defied stay-at-home orders during the latest COVID-19 lockdown, and thousands have been gathering in Melbourne's city centre. Now, the initial protest was actually triggered by a state government decision to make COVID-19 vaccinations mandatory for people working in the construction industry. Now, we know that there have been many cases across the industry in recent weeks, but since then we've seen people from other groups, particularly far-right extreme groups, joining the protest, and the scenes have turned violent and ugly, as the Premier Daniel Andrews has said. There's a lot of anger, frustration and resentment. We've seen buildings being damaged by protesters. Even police and journalists have been targeted. So today, riot police they managed to disperse the crowd on day 3 of the protests using tear gas, and they also fired non-lethal rounds at the protesters. About 200 people have been arrested, and this all comes as the state is trying to get on top of its COVID-19 outbreak.
All right, thank you for the update, Brianna. Brianna Piazza there in Melbourne.